All right, guys, we're going to get started. Core 3, working with buyers and the buying process. So today is one day or day one, you decide. And this goes back to your 15 minutes of being late, Evan. Ultimately, it's day one or one day. If you keep doing the one day, you'll never get to day one. So put that into everything you do and think about when you wake up in the morning, is today day one or one day? So today's expectations, we're going to find buyers. We're going to qualify and schedule the buyers for their consultation, educating the buyers and setting service expectations, asking for the buyer agreement to be signed, establishing any next steps. Of course, this is depending on what the current situation is with that buyer. And then I want you to find a partner to practice with, friend, family, another agent, whoever you can find, preferably a friend or a family member who's not an agent. In my opinion, those are really good because that gives, they're not going to know how an agent would respond. An agent would. So find both, friend or family and an agent you can kind of do this back and forth with. More Jenny Wallach.
Hey guys, it's Jenny Wallach with the Wallach Group, Keller Williams Realty Advantage in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Today I want to help you build your database. I got this great idea from a friend and business coach and trainer, Brian Eisenhower. And he taught us as a team a fun trick and tool to build your database by simply using Facebook. You know that you're on there anyway. Let's go ahead and make it purposeful. Well, so what you do is you go into your iPhone. It needs to be on your phone, and there's a reason for this. Go into Facebook, your mobile app, and go to your profile page, and you will see your friends list. Your friends should be listed in alphabetical order. Now, what you want to do is you want to create a private message that you are going to message them. Now, he has told us, and this was a little while back, about some Facebook regulations, and you'll get in trouble if you send it to X number of people. So as a team, we're just going to send this out to 20 people a day just to be safe. We don't want to go to Facebook jail. So what this message is going to say, and you want it generic because you're going to copy and paste it. You're going to start with the A's, and you're going to simply say, and I'm going to read the script so I don't mess it up. Hey, it's Jenny. How have you been? I'm updating my real estate database and I'd like to send real estate info from time to time. My real estate business was amazing last year. Or, I'm new to real estate and I need to be better about staying in touch with people I know. Would you mind replying with your home address, phone number, and email to help me out? Keep it short and sweet. And it is so amazing because people actually respond. And these are Facebook friends, so most likely they know you and they want to support you and they want you to succeed. So go ahead and work on building your database. And what I've found is that you may be an agent that's already been in business, and you could still be missing out on having your Facebook friends be in your business database. So you could be missing out on opportunities and giving back and sharing with them as well. I trust that this will be helpful. Let me know your results, and we look forward to talking to you soon. My number is 918-706-9845. Bye.
It doesn't sound thirsty. It sounds like you're really trying to make this year better than last. And so it gives you a good, I mean, obviously as new, you use the new one. And then next year you'll be able to use I had a great year last year. I'd love to put you in it and see how I can help you or anybody you know. So this is a great tool, and the Facebook thing, jail, is real. If you send it to, I think it's like 30 people, then it puts you like in lockdown almost because it thinks you're spam. So if you've got a bunch of A's in your Facebook, maybe do like 15 to 20. This is also great because if you do 15 or 20 today, and then you do 15 or 20 tomorrow, and just keep doing that until you get through your entire database, which obviously could take time. Once you're ready for the follow-up in a few weeks or a few months, you're not having 1,500 in one day. So you're, kind of spacing it out to where you'll be able to use it to your advantage. I don't know why it always restarts. So 10 minutes, it is 10:12. So we'll do 8 minutes. So 10:20. You can use this one if you like. I'll leave this on the screen, or go onto Facebook and message anybody who doesn't already know that you're in real estate. And if they are in real estate, or that if they know you're in real estate, just check in with them, see how they're doing. 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes, sorry, 8 minutes. So 10:20. I'm going to pause the recording. All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on, guys. If you didn't get your calls today, work on them after this. Thinking in the terms of like the weather right now, no one wants to be outside. It's misty, it's cold, it's blech. Tomorrow's gonna be the same. Use that time to your advantage. Make the calls because most people are gonna be home. They don't want to get out in this. Use that to your advantage. So working with buyers. Clearly establishing the process of finding and buying a home and working with your buyer as a coordinated team is the best way to work effectively and efficiently to close as many buyers as possible. Working with buyers is relatively simple, inexpensive, and quick. That's kind of why we focus as new agents with buyers. It doesn't cost a lot of money other than a little bit of gas and a little bit of time. Gas is going up, so yeah, it's getting worse. 349 by my house. And only getting worse. So remember, finding them is simple, servicing is inexpensive, and earning is quick generally with buyers. So finding buyers is simple. It's not hard to find buyers to work with. They visit open houses. I mean, you worked with Tyree this weekend and you had people from all over the country come in. They look for properties online and through our app. The more people you can get to download your app and use your app, it'll literally alert you when they're looking at something. So it's a huge tool to being able to see what they're looking at, when they're looking at, how often they're looking at it. And maybe if they tell you, oh, I want this, this, and this, but then they're looking at something that doesn't have any of that, it'll tell you what they're really looking for. Buyers are everywhere at all times, essentially raising their hand and saying, work with me. Servicing buyers is inexpensive. Buyers are more time consuming than costly. Apart from the gas you'll put in your car as you show homes, your expenses are low. Working with buyers, literally, you're spending the gas to go there and back, the time, maybe a little bit of printing here and there. And depending on how late you're out or how long you're out, coffee or lunch. You're not really spending a whole lot of money. Earning with buyers is quick. If you do it right in a great buyer transaction, you can help that person find a home and write an offer in one day. Working efficiently with buyers is your key to generating income quickly. Yes, you can do it in one day. I met a buyer at 2 o'clock. We were under contract by 3:30. It's just a matter of finding exactly what they want from talking with them and bringing them to that. And if it takes you 2 or 3 homes, fine. If it takes you 1 home, awesome. If it takes you 15, you're still getting to that end goal. Converting your buyer lead to a signed buyer agreement is an important step in the process. Each step of the process requires you to build and cultivate the relationship. Remember the 4 C's: capture, connect, cultivate, and close. Those are going to be your 4 C's that you'll literally deal with every day of real estate, buyers or sellers, because you've got to capture their information, connect with them in some way, cultivate that relationship if they're not ready, and close the deal. Closing a deal does not always mean getting paid at the closing table. Closing a deal could just be getting an appointment to meet with them. You'll have a couple different kinds of buyers, some that are ready to go today and some that are just researching. But the researching ones, their closing of a deal is getting to an appointment. The ones that are ready to go, their closing of a deal is getting them on a signed agreement. So finding buyers. Remember, your number 1 is lead generation. In this case, it's lead generating for buyers. After all, you can't work with buyers if you don't have any. 88% of buyers purchase their home through a real estate agent or broker. a share that has steadily increased from 69% in 2001. So 21 years ago, yes, it's slowly going up, and it'll continue slowly going up. As of 2 years ago in November, so a year and a half, buyers found a home they purchased on the internet, 51%, which is steadily going up. The more iBuyer programs we have out there, Zillow, Open Door, OfferPad, you can buy and sell a house from sitting on your couch. You can buy a car from sitting on your couch. More and more people are doing it. A real estate agent was 28%, a yard sign or open house sign, 7%, friend, relative, or neighbor, 6%, home builder or their agent, so the site agent, 5%, and then directly from sellers or they knew the seller, so FSBO, 3%. So when you're making calls for the FSBOs, you're essentially taking that 3% and making it yours. The FSBOs, some of them are going to work with you and some aren't. But the more calls you make, it's a numbers game. You have a higher ratio, the more calls you make to actually being able to land some of those deals. So open houses, we touched a little bit on this last week. Obviously, in this market, there's not a huge demand for open houses in some cases, but like Tyree's this weekend, if it's strategically done, you can still have the open house. As a new agent, open houses are easy, fun, and low-cost way to find buyers. Your goal in holding an open house is not only to sell the home, it is to put yourself in the path of opportunity. The business opportunity to meet people, add to your database, and set appointments, especially with interested buyers. For many agents, holding an open house is their number one strategy to build a strong business, and it can be yours too. If you follow a proven model, buyers and sellers come to you, and other visitors may not be actively looking to buy or sell, but a memorable and favorable impression can generate referrals now and business further down the road. Open houses are great. They're not just buyers. You'll have people come in that are just thinking, oh, I have a house that's really close to that. Or my house has this, this, and this. I wonder what this one's listing for, what it actually has. So it's buyers looking. It's some people just curious what their neighbor has in their house. And then it's some sellers going, I wonder what my house could be worth if this one's listing for 400 and I've got better stuff than this one. So anytime somebody comes through that door, it's an opportunity for you to not only make a lead, potentially have a buyer or seller, but make a contact who could give you referrals down the line. So you always want to be, in essence, on your best behavior, but at the same time, always come from contribution. Giving them something when they walk through that door may not be something tangible, but it could be just be a good experience, a fun person to talk to. You'd be surprised how many people will work with an agent just because they were fun to talk to. So holding an open house can be broken down into a few steps: preparation for the open house, marketing for that open house, and marketing for it can be dirt cheap or free. Facebook posts are free. Putting the signs out in front of the houses are free. You don't have to put it out in a newspaper. Trust me, that would take way too long. The house will be gone by then. But there's all sorts of things you can do to market it and get it out for everybody to see. Connect with the visitors and asking for their contact information. And that's one you can do in multiple ways. Sign-in sheet, QR code. I've seen agents who have a sign on the front door that says, please text me before entering. You never know. Try different things, see what works best for you and what you like best. And then lead cultivation and conversion follow-up. So once you have their information, even if they're not looking, even if they are, no matter what they are, you're cultivating that relationship to build that relationship. So if they do have an agent, one of two things: either they brought the agent with them, and then I reach out to the agent and thank them for coming to the open house, and I put them in my database as an agent and I tag them, but nothing further than that. If they are a buyer or seller that has an agent, I still tell them thank you for coming, and I give them like a snippet, like a picture of my card, and say, if your agent has any questions, please have them reach out to me. I'd be glad to answer any questions you or they may have. But it's putting you in the, hey, I know you have an agent. I'm not overstepping that boundary. I'm strictly here to help, and leaving it at that. But then I do put them in my database as well, and I tag them as whatever they are, but I put has an agent. That way I know who they are, and if they ever call me back or email me, I can look them up and say, oh, I see that you have an agent. Are you still working with Bob, whatever? Then it tells them, hey, I remember who you are, but at the same time, I'm not overstepping the boundaries by working with you if you do have that agent. If you fired that agent, fair game. But at least I'm being the professional and saying, hey, I don't want to step on Bob's toes. That makes sense? So market research, you're in the information business. As you're prospecting for buyers, you will be asked questions about the market, so be prepared. How can you respond when a buyer says, Evan, what's available in my price range? How would you respond? Yeah. Ultimately, until you find out their price range, you have no clue what's in their price range because you don't know. You're not a mind reader. My favorite is always, what is your price range? Well, I don't know. That's key right there. Let me get you in touch with a lender. The lender is going to be the money side. I always tell people I stay out of the money. The money is not my forte. I can give you very generic information, but the moment you start saying, well, my car payment is this, and this is this, and this is this, I have no idea. We work with lenders. This is their thing. This is their niche. Get them in touch with a lender. Kristen, I don't think I can afford to buy a house. What would you say? Yeah, ultimately a lender again. It's a money question. I don't really think I can afford to buy this house. Well, you never know. Have you spoken with a lender yet? Oh, no, I haven't. Well, great. Let's get you in touch with a lender. Some of them have great programs going on right now. And until we speak with one, we just don't know. Alex, I'm thinking of waiting till next year. What would you say? Exactly. I get a lot of, I'm probably just going to wait till next year. Well, and this is when you get to go back and look at statistics from last year till this year and the same house and the price differences. You can tell the person, hey, I can completely understand that and I completely respect your decision to wait till next year. However, my job is to give you the information. Currently, we're seeing an increase of, let's say, 3% month to month. And if you count that for next year, you're talking 36% for 12 months. That's a huge increase. Right now, we've got low rates. And again, a lender can tell you exactly what you can afford, what your payment could be, and we can go from there. Waiting till next year is fine. And I'm all for that if that's what you decide to do. But I do want you to realize the difference between now and then and what it could and could not be. So can you help me find investment opportunities or investment properties? Of course. There's no difference in that, minus a few little things, than buying a house. The big difference in the investment properties is generally they're going to be a little bit lower of a price if they're looking for something to flip, or if they're looking for like a quadplex, then you know exactly what they're looking for. This is another scenario of, okay, what are you looking for? What are you wanting to spend? Where do you want to be at? Then, of course, making sure that whatever property it is can do whatever they want to do. Some locations don't allow Airbnbs. Some locations only allow so many properties per acre or per 5 acres or whatever the case is. So it's a little more in depth, but ultimately it's the same thing as looking for a house. You would search it the same way, just adding in a few extra checks. I can afford $1,500 per month for my living expenses, and I'd like to live in some neighborhood of high-priced homes that the buyer cannot afford. You'll get this a lot too. I think I can afford this much, but I really want to live in Nocatee. No problem. Let's see if we can find something. But first, let's make sure the lender can qualify you for X amount and go from there. Ultimately, your lender is going to be one of your absolute first stops because they're going to be the ones to kind of, I like to say, reel in the buyer because the buyer thinks, I can afford 500,000. And the lender comes back and says, 350. So that changes what they're looking at. But the lender's there to give them the real true information. Otherwise, you can spend all day sending them searches, researching properties, showing them properties that ultimately they would never qualify for. So getting with that lender, establishing that relationship with the lender, and establishing a good connection between you, them, and the lender is going to be absolutely key. Before this market, you probably could get away with showing a few properties before 100% knowing if they were pre-approved or pre-qualified. This market, I wouldn't show them anything until you have a letter in hand, because let's say I'm showing you a home and you don't have a letter. In this market, we see the home today at 9 o'clock. It's a beautiful home. It's well priced. It's going to go quickly. By the time you get a pre-approval, even if I've got the contract ready to go, by the time you get me that pre-approval, which can take up to 3 or 4 days usually, the house is gone. 2 years ago, we had a little bit of time to get the pre-approval because I could tell the agent, hey, we've got an offer coming. We're waiting on pre-approval. And they would kind of give us the courtesy of, hey, we got an offer in, how quick is yours going to come? This market could care less. So this market, make sure they're pre-approved, and we're going to get into the difference in pre-approval and pre-qualify. Make sure they're pre-approved, because a pre-approval is much stronger than a pre-qualification letter. And if they have that pre-approval letter and you've already got it in hand, the moment you say, Rick, I want this house, write an offer, I can literally get to the house or office wherever I'm going, pull up the computer, have it written in about 30 minutes and sent over to you for signatures. And within an hour, hour and a half, in the agent's hands, ready to go. So the market will dictate if you need to actually rush through something, including making sure they're pre-qualified or pre-approved. But in this market, yes, I would definitely make sure before showing them anything that they're actually pre-approved for either that amount or more. I mean, if they're pre-approved for less, then we need to have the conversation. Hey, you're pre-approved for 300. This house is listed at 350. Are you planning to bring cash on top of this to the buyer or to the seller, excuse me? And if they aren't, kind of, set the expectations. And that's where setting the expectations across the board comes in, because you don't want to say, oh yeah, I think we can get it for 50 grand less, when everything in this market is going for list price, sometimes higher. Yep. And I think in November it was 99%. And then in August it was 102%. So wintertime as a whole in Florida, everybody shuts down. We don't like cold. But wintertime as a whole is a slower market. So by the time spring and summer get back around, when all the schools are letting out, people from up north are coming down because they're in the middle of a school, middle of a break. They have the time to come down. That's when we're going to see market prices start going higher and higher again. Winter always slows down. Spring and summer jump. So knowing right off the bat that we're selling at 100.5% is a great statistic to be able to say to the buyer, Mr. Buyer, I see that it's listed at 350. How bad do you want this house? Is this the house that you want to for sure live in, your forever home, whatever the case is? Because if it is, we need to bring a strong offer. We're seeing statistically 100.5% of the list price, meaning it's going a little higher than list. Is this something that you're willing to do for this property? Sometimes, and it's not always an easy conversation, but sometimes you're not there to be their friend. Sometimes you're there to give them the information that they need, whether they like it or not. Your job is to be basically the dictionary. You're there to explain everything that they ask questions about. And if you don't know the answer, that's when you come to me, Russell, the ALC, other agents, our Facebook page. Facebook page is probably one of the best places to go because it's quick. So use the tools you have and answer to the best of your ability any questions they've got. And then, of course, beyond that, research. Oh, I have homework for you guys, and you're going to research it and send it to my email. But I want you to find your list price to sale price in your market. the average days on market, and then the true days on market. I'm going to give you a few places that it is, but I want you to look for it. It's either going to be in your MLS board homepage or a quick Google search. In fact, after you guys, oh, what am I doing? That I'll show you in just a second where a few places you can look for it is. Not every place has a day on market and the average day on market, so one or the other will suffice. This is kind of for like down there in Daytona, since I do both. Daytona has a day on market, or not Daytona, I'm sorry. Stellar and Volusia and all those have a days on market, and then NEFAR and Daytona have a average days on market. So just one of those two, but your list price to sale price, which you already know, is 100.5%. So half your stuff's already done. Well, all your stuff's already done. So email me those when you have a chance. But to find that information, you've got a couple places other than Google. NEFAR is going to have, this is your NEFAR homepage. Right here, almost in the center, says market stats. Yeah, they're not real quick with the previous month. So yeah, whatever the most recent is, just use that. And then in your actual MLS, under menu, market trends. And this actually has a lot of cool information going over almost anything you could think of. There's market trends, there's market summary. This is great information just to kind of look at randomly. There's a lot of it. So under the MLS, go into menu. Step one, log in. Under statistics, it's got my production, market summary, my market, inventory and production, market trends, and rosters. So play around with all this. You'll be surprised how much information is actually there. And what I used to do is keep a little, like that little book you can get from like the Dollar Tree, little spiral notebook. And every month when they'd come out, I'd write these down. I was a very visual person, so if I wrote it down once, I could generally remember it. I have a photographic memory, so I can remember most of that. So that way, when I was talking to a buyer, as of last month, Mr. Buyer, blah, 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 and I can rattle it off for him. However, if you're not a visual person, having something that small, it would be easy to pop out of your pocket or your purse and be like, well, as of last month, this is what it is, which would be a great tool to use because now you've got the trends, you've got the statistics, and it looks like you're the professional remembering these things to be able to rattle off, when in reality, you're using a cheat sheet. But it's just because it's a smaller pool. You know, if you're trying to sell a 3-bed, 2-bath house, that's the quintessential house that everybody thinks of. Versus a fourplex or even a duplex, you've got to find somebody that wants the extra place, and whether it be they want or they're okay with the liability of it, maybe, or the investor side of it, it's just a smaller pool. Same thing with homes over $1 million. The average person can't afford that. So you go from a buyer pool of thousands of people to a buyer pool of maybe a couple hundred. So market statistics, be the expert, professional real estate agent that your buyers can rely on by having local market statistics at your fingertips. Your buyers will need your expertise in order to make an informed decision when it's time to make an offer and negotiate. Your list price to sale price ratio, the average days on market in different price ranges, a number of homes on market in different price ranges, and price trends. If you have a buyer that's looking specifically in one neighborhood, that makes it easy because you can search just that one neighborhood to find all this information and flat out tell them, hey, Mr. Buyer, the average home in this neighborhood is only here for 24 hours and it's gone. And it's selling for 1% over list price. So is this your forever home? Is this a home that you're willing to really fight for? That'll tell you immediately if this home is actually worth to them what they say it is. Local information, school district information. And I have an asterisk here by this for a very specific reason. School districts change. With how many homes are changing or are being built right now, proceed with caution at whenever giving school district information. I will just kind of point them where to find what they want because I don't want to give them the wrong information. For instance, I have no idea the best place to find what school is what. I don't have kids. It's not something I know how to do. I can figure it out, but you don't want to give them something that's wrong and then them buy that home because of that. You'll always hear, I want to be in this neighborhood because of this school. Proceed with caution because the schools change. My neighborhood, for example, we're getting a school built across the street. Everybody that I know of in my neighborhood bought for the specific elementary school that's being used. So in 2 years, that won't be the school anymore. So if they're buying in an area, knowing the area, knowing what's coming next in that area, and being able to just kind of point them in the direction of here's where to find what you need can sometimes work out better. Local resources, things like that, you want to tell them, if they're asking how far is Publix, how far is Walmart, how far is Winn-Dixie, you can let them know, oh, from this neighborhood, it's 5 miles or this or that, whatever the case is. If they're looking for something specific, a lot of times it's a hospital. How close is the hospital from here? My elderly grandmother is going to live with us or something, whatever the case is. Being able to give them the information that they want and actually provide value to them is huge. Put yourself in your buyer's shoes. What would you want to know about the area moving to? You'll get questions a lot about what is the crime rate. We can't answer that because what crime to me may not be crime to you. I grew up in Miami. There's no crime up here compared to Miami. Yeah. So find there's a website. I don't know the name of it. I'll find it. But it's a great one to just point them to. I used to save it on my phone and I would just text it right over to them the moment they asked me that question. That way they can research the statistics on their own and they can decide what's crime to them and what's not. This type of information is readily available from your title company, your local chamber of commerce, Google. Google's going to be your best friend. Title company is also going to be great because we literally have Bank of America, Blue Ocean, 2 floors above us. Daytona's is right around, like literally around a door. So you have a title company at your disposal to have questions answered. Obviously, if it's not a bleeding question, they're not going to answer it right away. But at least you have somebody you can go to have a reliable source of information. Qualifying and scheduling buyers for the consultation. Armed with market knowledge, your next step is to qualify the buyers and schedule an appointment for their consultation. Whether you're speaking to someone in your sphere, a referral has expressed an interest in buying, responding to buyer sign calls or inquiries from an open house, or making contact with a buyer looking for properties on your website, you now have 2 goals. Qualify them. Are they really buyers? Buyers are tire kickers, what I say. And then get the appointment for that buyer consultation. And why should you qualify first? And this will dive into your question about pre-approvals. So why should you qualify first? That exact reason. If you don't want to spend the time wasting your time for tire kickers, this is when you really dive into, are you serious? Are you ready to make a move? Or are you just researching the area for one reason or another? Some people are truly just researching, and you can still help them research the area, because then you're being that market expert. You're being the reliable source for them. If they're strictly just bored on a Saturday and they want to just look at cool houses, that's when you'll have to kind of really pry into what's going on and see, is it worth your time? So sign calls. When a buyer calls on a property they saw online or driving by, this sounds like an instant customer, right? Nope, it's not. Buyers who are calling on properties often have two goals: either eliminate the property. With a quick call, they want to determine if the house has potential. If it doesn't, they don't have to see it. Or eliminate you. Until they're ready to actually make a move, they want to avoid salespeople. Same thing when you're buying a car. You call in a dealership, hey, do you have this truck in stock? Oh, yeah, we've got one, but it's blue. Okay, thanks, bye. I don't want blue. You've eliminated that dealership altogether. You don't want to walk in because you get hounded by every salesman in the place. So they try to eliminate one or the other. If the house has potential, that's when they really want to see it. And they'll either tell you, okay, I'll get my agent to schedule it. So now you know they have an agent. Or, well, how can I see it? Well, Mr. Buyer, do you by chance have an agent that you're working with? Oh, no, I don't. Well, great. I'd love to be that for you. How does Thursday at 3 o'clock sound? Set the expectations and set the appointment as soon as you can to lock that in. So how do you accomplish your goals first? By using scripts that give the buyers the information they're looking for on the property, but at the same time, enable you to find out enough about them and demonstrate your value before they eliminate you. So you've got different stages of buyers. These are the researchers and the ones ready to make a move. Qualifying them will tell you which one they are. Going through their price, their motivation, the location, wants and needs, timeline, finances, and availability of what they're looking for. As you're going through this question with them, you'll start to see how serious they are. If they've done their research, then they already have all these answers. If they haven't done their research, a lot of these questions are going to be, I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I saw this the other day, and it just wasn't for me. You'll be able to get that feeling of either A, I'm doing this for a reason and we're actually going to find something by tomorrow to go look at, or you're just trying to even get in front of them because it's always, I'm not sure. I don't know. When you're speaking with a lead, under our kwdaytona.com agent hub, so you go to kwdaytona.com, click on agent hub, password is 248, and then the core class documents will link you to this page. Now ignore the core and the number because they're all out of whack right now. For today's class, we're focusing on core 4, the buying process. This is going to give you a bunch of information checklists, and I would recommend using these when you're talking to a new person on the phone, because let's see here, buyer lead sheet. This will actually bring up all the information that you need, and then you can transfer this into your database, scan it into your computer, save the file, whatever you want to do. But it gives you things like their name, their email, where they currently live, which they may or may not give you. Don't ask if they have children, but if they say my kids John and Jingle, I don't know. I was thinking John Jacob Jingle Hammersmith. It's been a weird one. But if they give you the information, write it down, because then you can use this as a care call later. It'll go through, has an agent taking you out and showing you any properties? Are you renting now or do you own? What price are you comfortable with? Gives you all sorts of questions, and these are all free to you guys. They're in the agent hub. There's this one. There's this one, which is a little more pretty, but it gives you with lead source, any information you need, what they're using it for. Depends on what you want. And of course, if you want to make your own, make your own. but it gives you a great way to keep track of the information that you need to know. And it gives you almost a script to follow as you're talking to them about stuff rather than just talking. And then you get off the phone and you go, oh crap, I don't know the price point. So now you got to call back and now you sound annoying to them. kwdaytona.com. Should look like this. And then Agent Hub up here in the right-hand corner. And then Agent Hub right there in the center. Password is 248. That's their market center number down there. And it brings you up all of this, which is also great to have as well. You get your forms and contracts. Remember, this is only for FAR bar down there, though. So if you're looking for a NEFAR document, it won't be in here. But you've got forms and contracts, their logos, their training calendar, any recent classes that they've uploaded, some store stuff. But then right here, first line, center item, core class documents. Click here, and it opens up the Google Drive with 14 different classes. So your 135 will be in here. Under the core 4, it'll have your buyer disclosure, buyer interview questions, clear to close checklist, all sorts of fun little tools here. So go through this today at some point, guys, and look at all these different things. And if you have questions about any of them, let me know. We'll go over those. And these 2 lead intake sheets are the 2 that I just going to click those open again. But as you're going through this intake sheet and you're qualifying them, you're also going to rate them. A, B, and C buyers. A buyers are ready, able, willing. They'll be under contract in a matter of weeks. B, they're ready and willing, but not able. Something has to happen first before they're able. So it could be, we're selling their home. We're waiting on our rental agreement to expire or get closer to expiring, tax refund, whatever the case is, there's something that has to happen. And then C, they have no immediate need. They may have a very exacting situation. In this market, we're seeing a lot of C buyers. Well, if I get 500,000 for my house, then I'll buy. Well, is their house worth 500,000? I mean, I tell people all the time, if my house sells for $1 million, I'll sell it. My house is only worth about 350, so I'm not getting $1 million. So when they tell you, if I do this, then I'll do this, see if their step 1 is feasible. If their house is 350 and they say, well, if I get 350, I'll sell. Well, let's try it. We don't know until we try. Gives you a great sense, or a great tool to say, hey, you said you'd sell if we could get you this amount. I think based on my numbers, I think I can get you that amount. Let's see what we can figure out. So as you rate them, I would just put, me personally, I have my lead intake sheet, and then I write whatever they are, A, B, or C, in the top corner, so that I know the day that I wrote this, the day that I took all this information in, I rated them A, B, or C, so that as I'm going through and working with them, I'm updating my notes in Command. I can now change them C buyer to A buyer. So now I know exactly what stage they're at all times. Command is going to be your best friend. That note-taking section, the activity document section, document, notes, everything. A loud speakerphone. Everything you can do, keep track of, because then when you're talking to them later down the line and you're reading your notes, they think you remember this stuff. In reality, you just took great notes and you're using those to benefit, or you may remember it. So this is when we dive into the pre-approval versus the pre-qualification. Financial qualification is essential. You don't want to waste your time or your buyer's time looking at homes that it's not in their price range. So pre-qualification is a preliminary evaluation on how much the buyer can afford to borrow using the initial information from the buyer. So most pre-qualifications, you'll go on, or the buyer will go online, they'll answer a few questions, and within about 30 minutes, they have an email saying, congratulations, you're pre-approved, sorry, you're pre-qualified for 250. Cool. 2 years ago, those would work. Now it's a computer algorithm and agents know that. So it's gotten to the point now that you can go online and you can lie to it and tell it you make $1 million a month and now you qualify. A pre-approval is a more involved process in which the lender actually verifies the income, employment, um, assets to evaluate how much the buyer can afford to borrow. This one takes a couple days because it's not just, oh, sure, you told us you make this much. They now want proof. Let us see your W-2. Let us see your tax refund. Let us see your pay stubs. Let us see your car payment. Let us see your house payment. They want to physically see it all, which means it takes time for the buyers to get the information over. So the moment you start talking to a buyer, if they do not have a pre-approval, that is your first step, is getting them to a lender to work on the pre-approval. It'll do a few things. Number one, it'll tell you what they can actually afford, if they can actually afford anything, because some people can't. I've had a few of those. Showed them properties, luckily before this market, showed them properties, thought from what they told me, we got no problem. They both worked, him and his girlfriend worked at Walmart cashiers, making less than $1,100 a month to bring home between two people. There was no way. Not in the market 2 years ago, definitely not in today's market. So it didn't waste my time because I benefited from it. I showed them a home that worked for a different buyer. And the moment I saw the home, I called the other buyer and said, Krista, you've got to get over here today, like right now. She jumped in her car, came over. She's been in that house for a year and a half. So it worked out. But you will have some people that are going to waste your time or theirs because they don't feel this is as important as it really is. So making sure they get that pre-approval is going to be night and day, making it easier for you to work with them. So explain the benefits of a pre-approval. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, it's important that you are pre-approved for a loan before you begin your home search. Pre-approval is really just a lender's determination of how much money you'll be able to borrow. You'll know exactly what price range you can afford. When you find the home you love, you'll be able to take action quickly. Kristen, this goes back to what we were talking about, where if I show you a home today and you love it, but you don't have the pre-approval, we're dead in the water until we can get that done. So it's all about time. Sellers will be more likely to accept an offer from a pre-approved buyer. And finally, you can see if there are any errors on your credit report and you can resolve them right away. I work primarily with 3 excellent lenders. Would you like for me to send their contact information? Obviously, this is a script. The more lenders you have, you can adjust it at however. Bank of England is always on mine. I've got a few different lenders with Bank of England, Movement Mortgage. As you work with different lenders, you'll really enjoy working with them and you'll add them to your list of lenders. As you add them to your list of lenders, you now have another reliable source that, you know, let's say, for instance, you have a buyer that's looking for a mobile home. Those are not written by every lender. I've got one lender who will write any mobile home for a really good price with no issues. She's in my list. Lance and Troy with Bank of England, both of them are on my list. John Owen from Movement Mortgage on my list because they've been able to go through and pull things out for me at the last minute. For whatever reason, the buyers didn't tell us or we didn't know about it, but working with them, you'll have a great rapport and you'll be able to actually build that rapport and build that relationship to where you can rely on them, they can rely on you. 7 critical points in the mortgage process, the initial handoff. So the initial handoff is key. You don't want to just send the information to your buyer and say, have fun. You definitely want to get them in touch. I give them a list of buyers, or sorry, lenders, and I say, hey, let me know which of these you'd like to work with, and I can get you in touch with them. Now, you'll have a couple different people. One will say, well, just, pick one for me, get that in writing. But you'll have some that'll say, oh, I've heard of Blue Ocean, or not Blue Ocean, Bank of England. Give me with one of them. No problem. And then I call immediately whoever the contact is, give them all the information, call the buyer, give them all the information, and then I do an email connecting the two so that everybody's on the same page, everybody's been introduced, and any information I have, the lender knows, and the buyer knows. So if I know, for instance, that this is a first-time home buyer, and I don't want to scare the buyer by all these different big words and big names and all this, I'll call the lender and say, hey, first-time home buyer, they're really nervous. They don't really know what they're doing. Here's the information I have so far, but here's the buyer's information. That way, when Troy or Lance call, they're already aware. They're not going to use, big words, closing disclosures, preliminary, things like that, because the average first-time home buyer doesn't know what that is. They're going to break it down for them and explain it. Or if I call with an investor, then Troy and Lance and whoever, they know exactly how to talk to them because they've done this. They know exactly what they're doing. They know the big words, and they know exactly what's needed. So you want to make sure that you hand them off in a way that's going to set you up for success for the next 2 months, because you could be working with these buyers for months. So once you explain the benefits, explain the pre-qualification and pre-approval process so they know what to expect. From there, the best practice is to call. We've already gone through this, to explain every little thing you know. What I'd like to do and what I used to do is I used to bring everybody together if possible. I'd bring the buyers into the office because generally Bank of England was there. This was when I was on the South Side. So we had somebody local, bring them in right there. COVID has stopped that. Obviously, people don't really do in person much anymore. But that's when the phone call happens and making sure that everybody's on the same page. You can do Zoom calls. We've gotten a little bit of kickback on Zoom. I don't know if it's just the average person doesn't like Zoom. I guess we just deal with it so often that we're okay with it at this point. But I've gotten about 50-50. Some people are all for it. Some people are just completely against it. So try it. If it's something that works for you, run with it. So pre-qualification and pre-approval is one of the steps in the mortgage process. If your buyer hasn't started home shopping or made a firm offer on a home, engage your loan officer to issue a pre-approval letter. This involves an underwriting review or use of an automated underwriting system and can move you closer to bulletproofing your transaction. Your buyer feels assurance that they can buy a home in a certain price range, and you know that your time showing them homes and submitting offers will not be wasted. Keep in mind, a pre-qualification is strictly a computer. Nobody looks at it. A pre-approval is either the underwriter looking at it or an automated underwriting computer system. If you know for a fact this could be a difficult one, I've got an agent in Daytona that's had a few of them where she knew immediately this was going to be one that we need to get through this initial part to even see if it's qualified. You can actually tell that lender, hey, this is going to be hard, blah, 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 whatever. And they can actually go through it much further than the average, almost to where they're clear to close. They just don't have a home yet, but they're ready because they've done all their homework and not just most of it. So sometimes it takes explaining this to the lender. Here's where we're at. Here's the problems I see currently, and making sure that everybody's working together to get to that next stage. Sometimes it does take explaining to them, hey, they told me they had a bankruptcy 5.5 years ago. They're still worried about it, whatever the case is. That gives the lender the information they need to know how far through this, or if they need to do it manually, how far they need to go through. Like something could go wrong. Like their credit may not be clean. If you get somebody that's got like a W-2, they've been at their same job for 10 years, they make decent money, never had a bankruptcy, never had a car repoed, everything's clean, there shouldn't be an issue. If they come to you and say, well, I had a car repoed 4 years ago, or I had a bankruptcy 8 years ago, or I just changed jobs, a year and a half ago. Most lenders want 2 years. So I changed job a year and a half ago. Letting the lender know up front, hey, this is what I was told, tells them how much they need to do into it. Every lender has a different rule. So anytime somebody says, well, will I be approved with this? I'm not sure, Mr. Buyer. Let's get you in touch with a lender and see what they say. Their rules can change, and I'm not sure what they currently are, and I don't want to lead you in the wrong direction. So it just comes down to, if anything sounds like it could be an issue, just telling the lender everything you possibly know gives them that much more knowledge about the situation to where they know what they need to do to get them to the closing table. Number three, expectation setting on what's, when's, and how's. I cannot explain to you guys how many times you're going to get this question. I've already sent them this. Why do I have to send it again? I have no idea. The lender does require certain things in certain time frames and in certain fashions. You have to do it. I always tell people, hey, I know it can be, a hassle. What I say is, the moment you are asked for something, send it, but keep it available. Don't put it back in a box that you had to dig out for. Keep it ready, keep it available, because there's a good chance they're going to ask for it again. And the moment they ask for it again, no problem. Here you go. Done. Versus, well, I've already sent you this. They'll have to run multiple checks on the same things to making sure nothing's changed. They'll have to check maybe the same document, the exact same document, more than once, or a different person may need it sent in a different format. Whatever the case is, just kind of set the expectation of, hey, you're going to be asked for a lot of documents. Some need to be done right away, some within a week, some weekly. Just make sure the moment you're asked for something, respond to the lender and get it to them. I always tell the lender, and this is something you can do as well, when you're working with a lender that you've worked with or not worked with, tell them flat out, hey, this person, I've got one right now. Hey, this person does not do computers. So if you need something done, send me a PDF. I will print it and I will hand deliver it to them, making sure that it gets done quickly. And vice versa for the buyer or the seller. If they're not good with computers and you are, hey, if you need something scanned, Mr. Buyer, Miss Seller, whatever, give it to me. I'll scan it in. I'll send it to you so that you can then send it to the lender. If the lender can, certain documents can, certain documents can't. If the lender can attach you to the same email, makes it a lot easier, because then you're already aware of what's going on. Certain things are private, certain things are confidential. Those you can't be attached to, and that's fine. But if there is something that you can be attached to, I always ask for them to do that so that I'm on the same page, so that I'm ready, just like the buyer or the seller is, to be, that next step already. The reinforcing the loan requirements to the buyer. There's no denying that tightened loan investor requirements and the new TILA RESPA integrated disclosure trade rules have made the mortgage process more complicated, which makes borrower cooperation more important than ever. Your home buyer will hear this loud and clear from the lender, but it's a good idea for you to reinforce this message by giving your buyer a pep talk, encouraging him to be responsive to all information requests. Set expectations with the buyer that the lender will ask for numerous documents in the beginning of the process, with follow-up requests also likely as the process progresses. Make sure your buyers understand the importance of having that information ready and submitting it in a timely manner. This goes hand in hand with the what's, when's, and how's. You're going to get the same requests over and over and over. They're going to ask you, they're going to call you and think your lender is being ridiculous. It's just the rules. It's the way it has to happen. I always tell them, hey, I know it's a hassle. We're looking at maybe doing this a couple times, but this house is the one you love. Are you willing to deal with a month of aggravation to get the house that you want? Oh yeah, I guess you're right. Right. You can go ahead and send anything they ask for, and I'll help the best I can if anything needs to be done on my side. Unexpected events, also a huge key point. Life continues to happen during the mortgage process, which occasionally can change the circumstances of the deal. Be sure your buyers know the importance of communicating any changes as soon as possible. Contact your loan officer immediately upon learning that the buyer has changed jobs, gotten divorced or married, or that something has happened to the property that will lead to renegotiated contract terms. A good lender can scramble and find viable loan alternatives, but time is of the essence. When it comes to anything that's happened with the property and you're negotiating anything, price, time, down payment, whatever, that generally requires an addendum to be done. The moment I write an addendum and it has been signed by buyers and sellers, I send to the title company, the other agent, and the lender all at the same time, so they all know they all got it. Some of them aren't needed by the lender or by the lender or by the title company, but sending everything to anybody within the contract just kind of helps push things along to where, oh, we didn't know about that. Well, yes, you did. I sent you the addendum, making sure everybody's on the same page. If you have somebody that changes jobs, they're going to call you freaking out. All these items, call the lender. The lender may have an option for you to not even have to worry about it to get you through it. I just had one, the buyer got fired, already had a new job lined up because she knew that she was getting fired. This guy was nuts. But because she got fired, immediately had a new one lined up in the same line of work, lender said, oh, you're good to go. But she freaked out because she got fired and they were a week away from closing on their home. So they're going to freak out, be the voice of reason, get the lender involved. Post-approval lockdown. Sounds bad. It's a good thing. Once your buyer has received final loan approval, congratulate them, but also tell them that between now and loan closing is a terrible time to buy a new car, furniture, any new debt, or quit a job. They'll get the same message from the lender, but you'd be amazed how often they ignore it. The lender does run a quick check on the buyer right before closing. So if they win the loan and they're ready to close, do not let them go out and buy a car or a boat as a surprise congratulations to themselves. Wait till after you've closed. Same thing with furniture, even a fridge. If the house needs a fridge, awesome. Don't buy it until the day you close. Close on the house first, then buy it. If there's something that comes up that just has to happen, there's no questions asked, get the lender involved. The lender can say, hey, yeah, we know, we understand, we'll do blah, 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 whatever, and get you through this part. And sometimes that just letting them know can be night and day different from closing or it falling apart, because the lender has tools and tricks to get you through as you need. And the seventh critical point, loan closing. You gave your loan officer the specifics of the loan closing, date, time, name, and address of the closing agent at some point early in the process. This is generally on the contract, but never hurts to have another email sent over just to reiterate the information. Do not forget to update them if any of this information changes, as it often does. This is especially important with the new TRID rules on the issuance and timing of closing disclosures. With your commission check almost at hand, it's better to be safe than sorry. As you get closer to closing, little things here and there can change, and that's fine, it will. But make sure the lender, title, other agent, buyers, sellers, whoever you're dealing with, make sure everybody knows every little thing. Communication is key. You, the title company, the lender, the other agent, you're a team. Fighting at each other is never going to get the goal. And if you actually help each other and work together, you'll be just fine. Remember, you're a team and work as a team to get something done. Qualified to get the appointment. Now that you've qualified them and determined their ability, readiness, and willingness to purchase a home, it's time to close for the appointment. Based on the qualification, you'll vary your follow-up. So an A buyer, these are the ones who are ready, willing, and able. They've got the funds, they've got the money, they got to find the house. Get them in the car. Let's go. Let's go find your house. Time is of the essence. B buyer, this goes back to identify what has to happen. Selling of the house. How can you help get that house sold to where their next step is ready to fall into place? And a C buyer, this is when you'll put them in your database. You'll put them on a drip campaign. You'll keep in contact with them. Care call, message, text every now and then, just being that top of mind for them. So when they are ready, you're there ready to go as well. Your name is top of mind. Your name is ready. You know, we talked last week, Kristen, about your videos that you want to do. These C buyers would be the great one to, if you got in the system that they're looking for Nocatee, anytime you do a Nocatee video, you make sure it gets sent to them. You're going to be top of mind for them. Same thing with you, Evan, with the quadplex. You've dealt with quadplex. You know how that works. If they're looking for something like that, and anytime you come across one, you send it over for just purely spec information, you're going to be top of mind for them. Anything you can pick out from talking to them the first time, tagging, notes, whatever the case is, and making sure they get that information when it comes across is going to be putting you at the top of the list for people when they're ready to call, ready to move. So a tip, the safe option is to schedule buyer consultations in your office or a conference room in your market center. This positions you as the professional, allowing you to take charge and direct the process. Once you have a buyer in your office, you have a good chance of representing that individual. If for some reason your buyer is near Southside or seller, call Southside and say, hey, can I use one of your conference rooms? They have like 3. We're allowed to do that. Just call and check and make sure one of them's open, and they have no problem doing it. Same thing, Daytona, Jack's Beach, and even you can call outside of our market center, our partnership, and go to a different location. Just call them ahead and say, hey, do you mind if I use your conference room? I'm from St. Augustine. Most of the time, if the room is open, they have no problem. That one could be difficult. There may be a KW in Iceland, but the drive is hell. So for that one, I'd recommend Zoom or phone.
We've met in person already. I have this example, like obviously, but they didn't. I wanted to also ask like our agreement in KW, like the steps instead of making the other one. I wouldn't be able to do that.
Mhm.
But I wanted to because I would like to fix sure that like this is my time for sure.
So yes, we have a buyer agreement. It's in DocuSign. However, it's more designed to protect you. And if they decided to work with a different agent, they can break it. It's strictly for, let's say she comes over from Iceland and goes to a KB home or a DR Horton, and you're not there, you don't know about it. And she calls you and says, oh, I just put my contract in on a KB home. Yay. No problem. As long as you have that document signed, you can now take that document, go over to KB or whoever and say, hey, I'm this person's agent. Now you're due your commission. If you don't have that agreement, the new bill doesn't care. We do have it. It's in, let me show you real quick. Under DocuSign. Going to add DocuSign forms. Now I've got both market centers for here in St. Augustine. You'll do KW 1075. Daytona would do KW 248. You click on that. I guess I've already got it in use. So you've got an agent buyer agreement. There is the broker buyer agreement, which is already in use. So we'll go back out of here. Oh, here it is. This is your broker buyer agreement. Now you'll fill out here beginning and end date. I usually do a year. Again, this is breakable by the buyer. You know, this is more of a psychological thing. They're locked in under contract to you. In reality, for them to break it, all they got to do is say, hey, I don't want to work with you anymore, and it's done. Now you will probably get, and you would sign as the broker or the agent. You got the buyer's names here, when this was done, what date. You'll probably get some kickback. It happens quite a bit on either party may terminate the commitment at any time by written notice to broker or agent, but buyer will remain responsible to paying broker's compensation, which basically means that the buyer is still responsible to pay you if they find something and they do like a for sale by owner or whatever the case is. They're still responsible to pay you. However, going after them to actually get this, it's one of those things that you could do it because we have the documentation to support it. However, are you willing to risk putting a bad taste in their mouth because of going after them for this?
It was that, even like, sometimes you want to do this all the time where you're going, wherever you're going, work with you to work in the best interest.
And the logic for that is there. The logic for, hey, you signed and agreed to this is there. But so I have a business degree, and in one of my business classes, and I probably the only part I really remember about it is if a buyer has a good experience, they are liable to tell 5 to 7 people. When a buyer has a negative experience, they tell 47 to 63 people. So it comes back to that. Yes, you are due your money for whatever the cost is or the amount is, but is that $3,000 or $4,000 worth them telling and blasting your name everywhere about how horrible it was and how you came to them after their happiest day of their life? Oh, by the way, you owe me $5,000. It's one of those situations where, yes, you have the documents to say you do owe me this money, but it's a catch-22. It's strictly a you and your business decision. I personally have only ever had this come up once, and I ripped the paper in half and said, no, it's not worth going after. But strictly your decision. There's no right or wrong for it. So the buyer's consultation is a tremendous opportunity to pave the way to an effective and long-term relationship with your buyers. During your meeting with the buyers, your goals are to delve into their needs, wants, and values, finding exactly what they want. I would say nothing less. However, this also dives into, oh, I really need a fence. Okay, well, a fence can be added, and seeing if maybe there's things that can be skipped over for now and done later. Showcase your services and educate and set expectations for how you'll work together, and walk away with a signed agreement. That agreement we just went through, that's what you're hoping to get signed. The buyer consultation is what customer experience is all about. You're devoting your full attention to your buyers, which shows that you are deeply about finding them the right home, care deeply. You are bringing your complete skill set to the table, which demonstrates your ability to provide the kind of expertise and perspective that will enable them to make confident and informed decisions. The buyer consultation is possibly the most critical point when working with the buyers, because it is how you turn your appointment into a signed buyer representation agreement. So some needs analysis tips: listen and take notes. Always, I say always ask, do you mind if I take some notes so I don't forget anything? That positions you as the, hey, I want to make sure I'm not missing anything for you. Be specific. You can't meet and exceed a buyer's wants, needs, and values if you don't know what they are asking. Ask questions and dig deeper using the what about is important to you. I need a fence. Okay, well, what about a fence being there right now is important to you? They may have a legitimate reason, or it could just be ease of not wanting to deal with it later, and that's fine. But if they find the proper house, the dream home, it doesn't have a fence, are they willing to, yeah. So find out, is it a deal breaker? Sometimes you'll get people that they have, to you, the most odd deal breakers in the world, but it's their home, it's their money. Your job is to help them navigate it. Ask what else. As you go through each group of questions, continually ask what else is important to you until they finally say, I can't think of anything, and they will. The more you dive into it, you're going to finally get, I can't really think of anything else. No problem. If you do, let me know, and I can always adjust the search and we can go from there. But until you get to that, I don't know. I can't think of anything else. There's always going to be something else until you actually just kind of push it to that point. Ask outside the ideal. For example, buyers may mention a ranch style home as their ideal, but may like a Cape style almost as much. You need to discern whether they would be perfectly happy with an alternative if it fits other criteria. I use Cape and ranch because in this market, when you're doing an MLS search, I would say about 90% of agents don't put what style home it is. So if they tell you I have to have a ranch style, my response is going to be, that's perfectly fine. However, I do want to forewarn you that the MLS searches based off what the agent puts in. So if the agent doesn't put what style it is, even if it could be a ranch style, even if it could be the home of your dreams, it is not going to show up in the search because the agent didn't put it in. We can get very, very specific on things. However, the more specific we get, the less likely things are to show up. Because again, agents put these in. All agents are not created equal. Certain things will be put in, certain things won't. Is this something that is a deal breaker for you if it's a ranch and not a Cape, or a Cape and not a ranch, or whatever the case is? If not, leave it alone. If 3-bed, 2-bath is absolute minimum, put that in. That's generally what agents put in. I have seen agents who put 0 bed, 0 bath. That's clearly a 3-bed, 2-bath. I don't have an excuse for them, but generally things like bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, all that's included. So setting the expectations up front of how you're going to search for them and being as specific as possible without being specific goes a lot further. Also play with your search. If they want a ranch, put the ranch in, and then remove the ranch and see the difference in the number that pop up. If it's a significant number, leave ranch out and explain to them why you left ranch out. A lot of times they'll look at it and go, oh, you're absolutely right. No problem at all. I always tell people as well, hey, there's going to be some things that come through on the search. If it's not what you're looking for, I apologize. Scroll right past it and we can try to remove it. Again, the search is based on what an agent puts in. If the agent doesn't put it in correctly, or maybe misses one little number or word or whatever, it can change the search results. Never assume. If you aren't entirely clear on something a buyer is asking or saying, ask. It doesn't hurt to ask them, but it will hurt. It will hurt to assume. Because if you assume they mean one thing, we all know what assuming does. Keep that in mind. Exactly. And I'm not going to be the ass. Ask about household, not family. Asking about a person's family could be a violation of the fair housing laws. So when you're asking, well, how many people live in your home? That's fine. Don't ask, how many kids are in your house? Is your grandmother living there? Just say, how many people are going to reside in the home? Then you know, okay, they're looking for a 4-bed, 2-bath, and they've got 4 people. I can assume what the 4 people are, but I'm not. But because that's also a violation of fair housing, I'm not even going to ask about that one because it gave me enough information to where I know what I need to know. I know how many people. And make it a dialogue. Taking advantage of this time to build rapport as well by keeping the tone conversational, not interrogational. Find something, in my opinion, this works amazingly. Find something that makes you stand out a little bit to be an icebreaker. I have a UM shirt with a U logo. In this area, a lot of people are either FSU or Gator fans. Sorry, that's your fault. But I wear that shirt because a lot of times I'll walk in and it's 99% the husband, but I've had a few husbands and wives or a few wives go, not in my house, get that shirt out of here. And so that's an icebreaker. Now we have a conversation piece. Now I'm building rapport. Honestly, this was probably one of my best listing appointments. I had a listing appointment where I always go to the kitchen table. It's easiest to kind of spread out, go over everything. The husband came in, he goes, looks at my shirt, walks out of the room, brings a TV into the kitchen and puts on the game. I think it was like Florida versus somebody. It wasn't UM, I don't know. but he put the TV on in the kitchen. You know how much work that probably was to bring the TV from somewhere, put it down, still have it connected to whatever, but he did it because of the shirt I was wearing. So it gave us something to talk about, something to joke about, and that was probably one of the smoothest transactions I've ever had because it was all about building rapport. After we're closed, everything was said and done. We went to one or two of the games up at like Dick's Wings, and we would meet there on some Sundays and watch games, some Saturdays, depending on who was playing. Became a friend. And that friend has referred business. So you want to build the rapport, you want to build the relationship, and you want to actually do as much as you can to be a human. Don't be the strict, like, I have to follow my scripts. This is all I can do. Make these your own. Do your thing. Follow the laws, but at the same time, be yourself. Do something that makes you stand apart from the average person, and you're going to get good results from that. So close for agreement. You have used the information in the buyer's consultation to solidify your position as a knowledgeable professional that will be able to help them find their new home. Now it's time to ask for the buyer's business. So here's a quick example. All I can ask in exchange for my superior customer service promise is that you agree to work with me exclusively. Does that sound fair? All right, cool. Can we sign and shake on that? And this is the agreement we were talking about. Provide them with the buyer's representation agreement, explain it, have them sign it, and shake hands. Shake hands depends on the person right now. Again, COVID, fist bump works. Whatever you want to do. Elbow. Some people are still against the shaking hands, and that's fine. This was obviously done before COVID, so just make sure when you explain the agreement, explain it to where they understand it. I've never had anybody balk at it. It has the piece in there about them paying. As basically, and you can explain to them, as long as we do this and we find a seller and we work through that seller's agent or a new build, they never have to pay it. That's only for when if they go off and find the home on their own and they don't deal with you in it, that's when that comes back into play.
For me, and that's because you're saying it there.
So if you're going through another agent, let's say I'm the selling agent or the listing agent, you're the buyer's agent. As the listing agent, you and your buyer come to me and you put an offer in on the house that I'm listing. My sellers pay you. If I'm a site agent for, let's say, D.R. Horton, and you come in, D.R. Horton pays you. If I'm a for sale by owner and I'm not an agent, and your buyer comes to me, your buyer now has to pay you because I'm not paying a commission because I sold the house myself. So that's where that protects you. And it does come out of their pocket. It's not out of their down payment. It's not from title. They would literally have to write you a check for whatever percentage is agreed upon through that. So again, it's one of those things where it can benefit you if they go to like a D.R. Horton without you present. You can still go to D.R. Horton and say, here you go. But if your buyer goes to a for sale by owner, that document states that they will have to then pay you for your time and energy and all that. Even though all you did was show them homes, you didn't write the contract or anything, they're still required to pay you based on that document. There's another example. What I have here for you is a buyer representative. Let's try that one again. What I have here is the buyer representation agreement, which puts me to work for you. You're giving me the tool I need to represent you in your purchase. With this tool, I have the opportunity to negotiate for you and get you the best deal. And getting the best deal is important to you, isn't it? Perfect. And if you can sign the buyer representation agreement, this will put me to work for you right away. These are scripts, guys. You don't have to sound just like this because they do sound robotic sometimes. Take them and make them your own. Do what you want to do to really kind of put your personality into it, and then use that to the best of your ability. So tomorrow we are going to work on setting up the MLS search. I will show you where to get the KW app invitation and send the MLS portal invite when you add a he's either posing. And I'll show you how when you add a person in to your MLS portal to send them the invite. So consultation resources. Remember, you have an entire team, leadership, agents, ALC, who are here to help. Use our agent hub, the Daytona Agent Hub, Google, YouTube to research and perfect your process. I can teach you the KW way. We'll go through the KW way, YouTube it. You were looking through YouTube videos, aren't you? All sorts of stuff out there, guys. Find something that works best for you and your personality and run with it. And I have a video to end the day, and this is a really cool one, actually.
If you only have 24 hours in a day, your success is dependent upon how you use the 24. You got to hear me. People talk about Oprah Winfrey, Ted Turner, Warren Buffett. Listen to me. I don't care how much money you make. You only get 24 hours in a day. And the difference between Oprah and the person that's broke is Oprah uses her 24 hours wisely. That's it. Listen to me. That's it. You get 24. I don't care if you broke, you grew up broke. I don't care if you grew up rich. I don't care if you're in college, you're not in college. You only get 24 hours. And I blew up literally. I went from being a high school dropout to selling 6,000 books in less than 6 months. What happened? My 24 hours. I was like, okay, Eric, you got to get a grip on your 24 hours because you're about to be broke for the rest of your life. And that's all I need you to do for me. I can tell you all about your life if you just write down your 24-hour schedule for me and you let me look at it. I can tell you where you're going to be in 5 years. I can tell you where you're going to be in 10 years. I can tell you where you're going to be in 20 years if you keep that schedule.
You have 24 hours in a day. You have 15 minutes to make up. Technically, you have 20 minutes to make up. So make up those 15 minutes, make up the 20 minutes, and use the 24 hours wisely. All right, guys, we are done for the day. Tomorrow is buyers process. I don't remember. From 1 to 3, I'll be in Daytona, so it'll be Zoomed for you guys. You're more than welcome to go down to Daytona. Weather is supposed to be horrible tomorrow, so I recommend not. And then Wednesday is a normal time. Thursday, we did just change it from instead of being from 10 to 12, we have to do it from 9 to 11. I have a closing at 11, so I've got to be down the street by 11, so it's probably not going to happen. But 9 to 11 on Thursday, and we will see y'all then. Of course.